Story 1. At first, I thought it was just dark humor. You know, sarcasm, edgy jokes, the kind of stuff some people throw around without thinking. During the first few weeks of dating, he'd laugh and say things like, "I'm going to murder you and dismember your body. No one will ever find you." At first, I nervously laughed it off, but the jokes kept coming, and they got more detailed, too vivid, too frequent, and no matter how sarcastic he claimed to be, they started to get under my skin. I told him more than once, "Hey, stop joking about killing me. It's not funny." I even tried explaining how uncomfortable it made me, how those so-called jokes actually scared me. He apologized, said he didn't mean it, said he felt bad for making me uncomfortable, and for a moment, I believed him. I thought we'd moved past it. But then, tonight happened. We were supposed to meet his brother for a casual night, games, movies, dinner, nothing serious, but we ended up running 3 hours late. I brought it up gently just to talk about it, and that's when I noticed it. He sighed deeply, then clenched his fist and stared down at it, like he was actively trying not to punch me. That moment sent a chill down my spine. And then it got worse. As I was saying goodbye to his brother, he suddenly walked into the room and said she should say her permanent goodbyes. I froze. What? I asked him, what the hell does that mean? He just shrugged. It's a joke. A joke, really? I asked him to explain it. What's the punchline? How is that supposed to be funny? But he had nothing, no explanation, just that same awkward silence. At that point, something in me snapped. I didn't want to get in the car with him. Something felt off. I trusted my gut and walked away. Luckily, my roommate came to pick me up and brought me home safely. Later that night, he called. I told him I was done. I couldn't keep brushing this off. I reminded him, again, that I had already asked him to stop making jokes about killing me. And you know what he said? He said I was the problem, that I was overreacting. I tried one last time to explain. Do you know how many women are killed by their partners every year? That's why these jokes aren't funny. But before I could even finish, he snapped. "F***you," he said. That was it. I hung up. I blocked him. And now I'm sitting here, replaying everything. What really messes with my head is that my roommates are telling me to just talk it out with him, that I should give him another chance because they can see how much we liked each other. But the truth is, I did talk it out. I gave him the chance. I made it clear that those jokes scared me. He promised to stop, and then he did it again, but this time he said it while he was angry. And that terrified me. Because in that moment, something deep in my gut told me to get away from him. Not tomorrow, not later, now. I've had boyfriends, I've had male friends. Not one of them has ever joked about murdering or dismembering me, not even once, let alone over and over after I begged them to stop. Maybe I'm being dramatic, or maybe I trusted my instincts, and maybe those instincts saved me from something worse. What do you think? Would you have gotten in the car? So here's a quick update, and honestly, I just want to say thank you. The support I've received has been overwhelming. Seriously, thank you to everyone who commented, messaged, and shared resources. Some of the links people posted were eye-opening, and I've already shared them with my friends. I've learned so much, and I honestly feel stronger for it. And in case you're wondering, no, I haven't heard from him since the breakup. He's stayed quiet, no drama, no strange behavior, nothing. And honestly, I hope it stays that way. But just in case anything changes, I'll keep you all updated. One of the comments really stuck with me. It said everything I wish I'd realized sooner. Someone wrote, "You've already given him chances. He agreed to change, then he broke his word. So not only is he verbally abusive and potentially violent, he also breaks his word. You did nothing wrong." There is no humor in what he said. Abusers often excuse their behavior in two ways. First, they say it was a joke. If that doesn't work, they try to make you feel like you're the problem. Don't tolerate threats even if they're disguised as jokes. If a man ever threatens you, joke or not, tell him once. And if he does it again, leave. Because if someone is dangerous, your tolerance becomes a green light for them to keep pushing your boundaries. That comment really put everything into perspective. I just hope someone else hears this and remembers it when they need to, because it's not always easy to tell the difference between a joke and a red flag until it's too late. Thanks again to everyone who stood by me. This story could have ended differently, but I trusted my instincts, and I'm so glad I did. It's been almost a year since everything happened, and I never thought I'd be writing this update. But after everything I shared and the messages I received asking for closure, I figured it was time. A lot has changed since then. I've moved across the state, started over, and I haven't seen him since. The last time we spoke was over the phone months ago now. I told him one last time everything I needed to say. I said you promised you'd stop making jokes about murdering me, but then you did it again. I said you do realize the greatest threat to women is being murdered by their partners, their boyfriends, their husbands, men they already know. His response, "Hey, F you." And that was it. I hung up, I blocked him, I ghosted him entirely. I even warned my employer in case he showed up anywhere near work. I wasn't taking chances. I thought that was the end of it, but a few weeks later, he sent me an email. And to this day, I'm not really sure what to make of it. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. It started off with him getting my name wrong. Again, he used a nickname he'd made from a joke about constantly mispronouncing my name. The email was long, rambling, contradictory, like a mix of regret, self-pity, blame-shifting, and poetic nonsense wrapped in a bottle of guilt. He wrote things like, "I don't really know how to say that I'm empathetic because I'm just a me-pathetic mess. I've recognized that my actions have consequences, clearly." He went on and on about how he didn't realize I had blocked him, how he waited, how he thought I'd eventually reach out. He said he tried to call me again, and that's when it hit him hard, that it had already been 2 weeks. Then he spiraled, talking about how he wanted things to end civilly, how that terrible night was booze-ridden, how his memory was blurred by Irish whiskey, and how he was cut out like a cancer. He called himself a mess. He said history was ironic, that he now knew what it felt like to be ghosted, since he'd done it to others before. And then came the part that stuck with me most. "I lost one of my best friends. I lost you. I've been hurting. I know you hate me, what you think I am. Nobody likes Andrew Tate. I am hate. I am TATE." That line alone sent a shiver through me. I didn't know if he was trying to be dramatic, poetic, or if he was spiraling into something darker. He kept going, saying I was light, and he was the shadow that blocked it, that I gave him happiness and he gave me fear, that he wasn't ready, that he regrets what he did, that I deserved better. It was all over the place. He talked about flying, about sinking in the sands of time, about bottles and gates drowned by fear. It read more like a stream of consciousness than an apology. Then toward the end, he said something that chilled me. "It scares me to think that, when we inevitably run into each other again, you'll fear me, and I'll fear you." He said he'd stop contacting me, that I could reach out if I wanted, but that he knew I wouldn't. He said he just wanted to bury himself with some dignity. He ended by saying he knew I'd find someone better, someone who would treat me with love and respect, someone he couldn't be. And finally, he said, "Maybe that was the problem. I was too much. You thought I was just a blimp in time, and now that blimp can finally sink." I read it once. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because no amount of flowery language, self-deprecating metaphors, or twisted poetry could erase what happened or the way it made me feel. He didn't just cross boundaries, he shattered them, wrapped them in humor, and called them harmless. And I'm glad I got out before I became another story with a different ending. After I shared what happened, I wasn't expecting the kind of response I got. Most people were supportive, rightfully disgusted by how everything played out, but then there were a few who genuinely shocked me. Apparently, some people thought I was the villain in this story. Yep, according to folks like Sarab, Route 741, and someone named Smooth Cauliflower, I was too harsh. They said I was wrong for being angry that my friend lied about being assaulted, and wrong for being against infidelity. Can you imagine? It was frustrating, but also incredibly clarifying. Because while they were busy defending lies and cheating, hundreds of others were telling me exactly what I needed to hear, that I did the right thing. That silence in situations like this does nothing but enable bad behavior. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait any longer. I already had a message drafted, a detailed email I wrote right after she confessed everything to me. At the time, I wasn't sure if I should send it. I didn't want to overstep, but after reading so many thoughtful comments encouraging me to do the right thing, I hit send. I emailed her fiancé. I told him everything I knew, what she told me, what happened that night, and what we all experienced trying to support her when we thought something horrible had happened. I told him to reach out to the other girls if he had any doubts. I even linked him to the original post so he could see the full picture for himself. He hasn't responded, and honestly, I don't know what I'd even say if he did. We've never been particularly close, and I don't want to insert myself too deeply into what's likely a painful, confusing moment for him. My job is done, I told the truth, and I've cut her off completely. If they go through with the wedding, I won't be standing by her side. I've already made it clear I'm no longer part of the wedding party, and I'm not alone. The 3 other bridesmaids feel the same. If she moves forward with this marriage, she's doing it without a bridal party at all. And honestly, that's on her. I'm just thankful for the people who gave real, grounded feedback, people who didn't excuse toxic behavior just for the sake of keeping the peace, people who reminded me that loyalty doesn't mean protecting someone who's hurting others. Oh, and before I wrap this up, I just have to share one more thing. A comment I received that was so out of touch, I almost laughed out loud. Someone said something so absurd, I couldn't help but imagine the bitter little backstory behind their screen. Probably old, probably salty, probably never been married, or maybe just hates weddings in general. Either way, it was weird. But hey, if people want to out themselves as walking red flags in a comments section, who am I to stop them? At the end of the day, I can sleep at night knowing I did the right thing. I stood up for the truth, even when it was messy, even when it made me the bad guy in some people's eyes. Because sometimes, doing the right thing does make you the villain in someone else's story. But I'd rather be the villain in a liar's narrative than stay silent and let someone walk into a marriage built on betrayal. After everything blew up, I thought that was the end of it, but as always, the internet had more to say. Some people brought up a really valid point, something I hadn't fully considered in the heat of everything. They said, what if my friend lied about cheating because she was too scared to say she'd been harmed? Others pointed out if she was drunk, could she even have consented at all? That hit me, and I'll admit, it made me pause. It made me second-guess how I handled things. I started wondering, what if I misjudged the whole situation? So I reached out to her again. She didn't want to talk, and honestly, I didn't push it. From what I could gather, it seems like her fiancé ended things, or at the very least, something serious went down. I didn't ask. It wasn't my place anymore. But then her mom called me. And that's when the full story finally came out. She told me that yes, my friend cheated. She admitted it to both of her parents. Her mom sounded absolutely appalled, and it turns out this wasn't some impulsive mistake after one too many drinks. It was planned. Apparently my friend chose our bachelorette weekend destination specifically because an old flame, some guy from her high school days, lives there. She planned to see him one last time, for closure. That's what she told her parents, closure, like cheating is some kind of self-care ritual. I didn't even know the guy, I wasn't around back then, but it all made sense in hindsight. She left the bar just 30 minutes after we got there. I remember clearly she'd only had a single shot by then. Sure, maybe she drank more after she left, but let's be honest. What you do while drunk may not always be in your control, but how drunk you let yourself get, that is a choice. And more than that, this wasn't some drunken mistake. This was a premeditated plan. She picked the location based on where he lived. She ghosted us, switched off her phone, lied about everything afterward. I'm now pretty confident that no assault took place. What happened wasn't some confusing, blurry night gone wrong. It was exactly what she intended from the start. There were also a few other rumors flying around that I want to clear up, just for the record. First, how did I have the groom's email, but not his phone number? Simple, all wedding correspondence with vendors was done over email. I was helping coordinate things as a bridesmaid, and the groom was CC'd on every thread. That's where I got his email, that's it. And no, I didn't CC the entire group or expose her to everyone at once. As satisfying as that might felt in the moment, I didn't think it was fair. If I were in his position, I wouldn't want to find out that way. I wanted him to know privately, to process it in his own time, and decide for himself how to handle it. Second rumor, that I wanted him for myself. Please be serious. You can do the right thing without trying to steal someone's partner. It's called being a decent human being. I said he was a gem of a fiancé because he was. He was covering all the wedding costs because my friend's family was going through financial hardship. That's rare. That's kind. That's love. That's why I felt he deserved to know the truth, especially before pouring more money and emotion into something that was already broken. And by the way, this wedding wasn't just any small event. It was set to cost around £50,000. For reference, the average wedding in the UK is about £23,000. This was more than double that. So yeah, he deserved honesty, not deception. And now I'm out, I've cut her off. I've stepped away from all of it. The other bridesmaids have too. None of us are participating in this wedding, if it's even happening anymore, which, from what her mom said, it probably isn't. As far as I'm concerned, this is where the story ends. I've said what needed to be said, I've done what I felt was right, and now I'm finally walking away with my conscience clear. Some people may still say I overreacted, some may try to twist the narrative, but I know what I did, and more importantly, why I did it. And if standing up for truth, loyalty, and integrity makes me the bad guy, so be it.